Vietnam Airlines has announced adjustments to its flight operation plan, adding nearly 1,000 seats on routes between Vietnam and Europe during the peak travel period amid operational constraints, linked to the situation in the Middle East. According to the national flag carrier, it will increase the use of wide-body aircraft with larger seating capacity on several European routes to better meet rising travel demand. Specifically, the airline will prioritize deploying the Airbus A350, which offers a higher seat capacity, on certain services to Europe. In March alone, the carrier plans to switch 11 pairs of flights between Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, and Munich in Germany to operations using the Airbus A350 aircraft. The use of larger wide-body aircraft is expected to increase available capacity on Vietnam-Europe routes to accommodate passenger demand. Vietnam Airlines said its flights to Europe are operating safely via flight corridors that comply with operational conditions and avoid areas affected by ongoing conflicts. The airline added that it is closely monitoring developments in the Middle East and will continue to proactively adjust operational plans when necessary to ensure safe and stable flight operations. The push to mobilize more resources and increase capacity comes at a time when the global aviation market is facing uncertainty. Vietnam Airlines said the effort aims to maintain stable air connectivity between Vietnam and Europe while reaffirming its role as the national flag carrier in meeting passengers' travel needs and supporting trade, tourism, and international cooperation. New Zealand's national airline said Thursday it would cancel 1,100 flights over the next 2 months, pointing to the impact of the war in the Middle East. Air New Zealand Chief Executive Nikhil Ravishankar said around 5% of its flights will be cancelled, affecting 44,000 passengers. The cancelled flights are mostly on domestic routes within New Zealand, but will also include some international flights, he said. Flights between New Zealand and the United States would not be impacted due to increased demand for alternative routes to Europe, Ravishankar added. With the unprecedented volatility in jet fuel prices due to the conflict in the Middle East, airlines around the world are adjusting fares and their schedules to help manage the impact of these significantly increased costs, Ravishankar said. Ravishankar said jet fuel typically cost about $85 a barrel, but prices were now double that. Cancellations would help keep flying as affordable as possible and ensure the company was efficient with fuel, he said. On Tuesday, Air New Zealand raised ticket prices on all routes. Oil prices this week surged well above $100 a barrel, after Iranian attacks on shipping effectively closed the Strait of Hormuz in response to the U.S.-Israeli strikes that killed Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Vietnam's airline operating costs have jumped 60 to 70% after jet fuel prices tripled in the wake of the U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran, the Civil Aviation Authority of Vietnam, CAV, said at an emergency meeting on March 9th to discuss the industry's response. Fuel typically accounts for about 30% of an airline's operating costs, and the surge has pushed total costs up 60 to 70%. Rising diesel prices have also increased the cost of running ground equipment at airports, adding further pressure on both carriers and airport operators. Nguyen Quang Trung, Deputy General Director of Vietnam Airlines, said if prices stay around $200 per barrel, the airline's operating costs would double, meaning it would lose money on every flight. Vietnam Airlines has drawn on its March fuel reserves and implemented fuel-saving measures to partially cover operations into April. The conflict has already disrupted major transit routes linking Europe and Asia through the Gulf. Qatar Airways, Emirates and Etihad Airways have canceled or adjusted 98 flights to and from Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City and Da Nang between February 28 and March 10, affecting around 20,000 passengers, according to the CAAV. Several Middle Eastern countries have closed or restricted their airspace since the strikes began. Vietnam Airlines has added about 30 flights on European routes to help clear stranded passengers. Trung said the disruption also presents an opportunity. With Gulf carriers grounded and recovery likely to be slow, Vietnamese airlines could capture more transit traffic and advance Vietnam's ambition to become a regional aviation hub. On the supply side, fuel suppliers said they are managing the situation. Tran Minh Tuan, General Director of SkyPeck, the country's largest aviation fuel supplier, said the company imports 70 to 80% of its jet fuel from Singapore, Thailand, and China, with the rest from the Dung Quoc and Ghi Sun domestic refineries. SkyPeck has guaranteed supply through March 31st and placed orders for April, though Tuan said the outlook beyond that depends on how the Middle East situation develops. Nguyen Van Hoek, General Director of Petrolimex Aviation, the country's second-largest supplier, also confirmed supply through the end of March. He noted that some April orders could face disruption if counterparties invoke force majeure clauses. Both suppliers urged airlines to commit to accurate fuel consumption estimates from March through May so they can plan procurement, and called on the CAAV to coordinate with supplier countries to ensure contracted shipments are delivered. Vietnam Airlines proposed waiving the environmental protection tax on jet fuel and asked the CAAV to negotiate flexible regulatory mechanisms with international aviation authorities, similar to measures adopted during the COVID-19 pandemic. CAAV Director General Wong Viet Dung called on the industry to work together, directing fuel suppliers to maintain production and airlines to optimize costs while sustaining their route networks. He urged carriers to explore new routes to markets including the Americas, Africa, Australia, Eastern Europe, India, Japan, and South Korea, while ensuring service quality is not compromised. On the policy front, the CAAV said it would ask the Ministry of Construction, which has overseen transport since absorbing the former Ministry of Transport in a 2025 government restructuring, to seek government support. It will also recommend expanded credit limits for fuel importers and airlines from the State Bank of Vietnam, ask the Ministry of Industry and Trade to diversify supply sources, and request tax and fee relief from the Ministry of Finance.